Alright, so today we're going to start out with 2.1, solve problems using equations and inequalities. Since day one, we're going to start out with mainly solving problems using equations. So for this, solving systems of linear equations by graphing, solutions to the systems of linear equations. A linear equation in two variables has an infinite number of solutions that form a line in a rectangular coordinate system. Two or more linear equations form a system of linear equations. For example, as we have here, x minus 3y equals negative 5, and 2x plus 4y equals 10. A solution to a system of linear equations is an ordered pair that is the solution to each individual linear equation. There's a lot of verbiage right there, but main thing is you'll see what's going on. Don't be lost yet. So, moving forward with this, we are simply going to take these equations and see if these points actually work, or these values for x and y. So determine whether the ordered pair is a solution in the system. So again, we have x plus y equals negative 6, and 3x minus y equals negative 2. Alright, so moving forward with these, we're going to make sure that these points right here, a and b, actually work for these two equations here. And to do that, we're going to substitute in the x and y values we have for this point of negative 2 and negative 4 into both these equations to see if that makes sense and they both sides equal each other. So in other words, make sure you understand that this point is x comma y, right? So we have our x value of negative 2 and our y value of negative 4. So we're going to plug those into those equations over there. So let's take this first equation of x plus y equals negative 6. Our x value is negative 2 plus our y value of negative 4. And that should equal negative 6. Well, if we follow our rules, remember, same sign. So we're going to add the values together. So 2 plus 4 gives me 6, so we're going to keep that negative. And therefore, that should equal, as the other side says, negative 6. So, first equation, check mark, works out. Second equation, we're going to take 3x minus y equals negative 2. So if we take 3 times negative 2 minus a negative 4, that should equal negative 2. Well, let's go through this and get this squared away. So we have 3 times negative 2, which should give you a negative 6. And then you have minus a negative 4. Well, think about this. If you ever see this, and you have a minus in front of a negative like that, there's an imaginary 1 value right there. And that is like saying negative 1 times a negative 4, right? So if you distribute that in other words, multiply this, a negative times a negative will give you a positive, right? Well, 1 times 4 is just a 4. But since we have a negative times a negative, it makes a positive. Okay? And then that still equals a negative 2. Well, if we simplify this a little bit further, we should see that, I'm just going to move this right over here. So if we take negative 6 plus 4, so in other words, we're $6 in the hole, our bank account is negative 6, we get $4, well, we're still $2 in the hole, right? So you still should have negative 2 on that side, on the left, and that still equals our negative 2. So in this case, both of these values checked out. It's all good. Okay, so now let's do B. I'm going to line this off so that way we don't get any of these confused here with that. So now for our x value and our y value, again, this is just x is 0 and our y is a negative 6. Okay? So we're going to put these in the equation. So we take this and we say x plus y equals -6. So our x value is 0 plus a -6 equals -6. Well, 0 plus -6 is simply going to give you a -6. Nothing changes. It's not adding or subtracting anything. Equals -6. So both of those equal each other, so that checks off. Now let's do the next equation. 3x minus y equals -2. Well, if I take 3 times 0 is our x value, minus a -6 equals -2. Let's see if that works out. Well, 3 times 0 is 0. And then as we said previously, when we have that negative in front of, or subtraction, a minus sign in front of that negative value, there is like a -1 right there, okay? Imagine that. And you're gonna multiply it times the -6. Well, we know 1 times 6 is just 6. And we have a negative times a negative, which makes it positive, okay? All right, and that still equals -2. Well, now this equation gives us 0 plus 6 on the left, gives us a 6. And that equals -2. Does that make sense? No, that doesn't work, does it? So with this, it's a no-go. So what we're looking at here then is, it says determine whether the ordered pairs are solutions to the system. All you need to do is show me this check mark or check mark in X, in which case this ordered pair for A, it works out. And that is an ordered pair that works, right? For -2 and -4, because it worked in both equations. For part B though, we had the first equation worked out, but the second one didn't work out. So therefore, this one is a no-go. That point did not work. Now, if we would have, let's say we did the bottom equation first, the 3x minus y equals -2. If we did that equation first for part B and found out it did not work, there is no reason to do the other equation. Because for the point to make sure that it works, all equations have to work out. So if one of them doesn't work out, well, then you don't have to do the other equations. So if we would have started out with saying 3 times 0 minus a -6 equals -2 and found out that didn't work, we would not have had to do the x plus y equals -6 as far as this top equation. So I'm just letting you know that, because on some of the practice problems that you guys are going to work out, that more likely will be the case, and that'll eliminate a lot of extra steps. So if you're working through one of these points and it doesn't work out in the equation, you can stop right there and say that point is not valid for those equations. All right, so now let's do a couple more real quick. So let's see here. We've got -2 for our x and a -1 for our y, okay? So our first equation is 3x plus 2y equals -8. And our second equation is y equals -2x minus 18. All right, so let's put this in. So we got 3 times our x value is a -2 plus 2 times our y value, which is a -1, equals -8. Well, 3 times a -2 is a -6. And then we have plus a 2 times a -1. Well, that gives me a -3. Oh, I'm sorry. How about a -2? I'm adding in my head. A -2. Okay, and that equals -8. Well, -6 plus a -2, both the signs are the same, so we just need to add the actual values. So we get an 8, we still have a negative, and then we have, so it equals a -8. The first equation works out. Okay, so let's do this next equation in a different color here. So now our y equals y equals 2x minus 18. So our y is -1 equals 2 times our -2 minus 18. All right, so -1 equals 2 times -2 is going to be a negative value because we have a positive and a negative. Negative rules in this case, and there's only one of them. So negative 2 times 2 is 4, and then minus 18. All right, I should put a little therefore arrow right here. So therefore we have -1 equals -4 minus 18. So since those are both the same sign, we know we're still going to have a negative value, and we're going to add those two values together. So that should give us 18 plus 4 give us 22. So does -1 equal -22? No. So it's a no-go for those guys, all right? So -2 and -1, that point value is not a point. Put a big X over it, is not a point that works for both equations. Okay? So now let's do this again for the next one. So 4 and -10. Again, our X value is 4. Our Y value is -10. All right, so we have, let's see here, we have 3 times 4 is our X, plus 2 times Y is our -10, and that should equal -8. Okay, so we have 3 times 4, which is going to be 12, and then plus, in this case we have 2 times a -10. Well, it's a +2 and a -10, so it's a negative value, and 2 times 10 is 20. Let's see if that equals -8. Well, if we take 12 plus a -20, think of it this way, right? You're $20 in the hole because your bigger number is negative, so you're saying you need $20, okay? Well, your friend gives you 12 bucks. How much do you still not have in the bank? You still don't have $8. So you still are -8, and that equals our -8. Okay, so this first equation works out with that data point. So then let's do the second equation. So now we've got y equals y equals 2x minus 18. All right, so our y is -10 equals 2 times our x value of 4 minus 18. So we have -10 equals 2 times 4, which is 8, minus 18. So again, on the right-hand side here, the -18 is our bigger value, and it's negative. So we know we're going to have a negative value overall for that, all right? I'll go ahead and write down this -10 over here on the side, so that's not going anywhere. So we have a +8 minus 18. So we're $18 in the hole. We get $8, but we're still $10 in the hole. So we're still -10. So therefore, this one works out. So this guy, for this data point, is good for both equations to figure that out. All right, guys. So with this is going to be your homework. It's on a file through Canvas for you. In which case, there are 3 data points for each equations, or each set of equations here, that you can go through and check. Now, don't freak out of the fractions again. If you need to use a calculator on some of them, you can. But do your best without a calculator. See how it plays out. But there are 3 points for each set of systems here. It's for you to check out on, okay? All right, I'll see you next time.